Welcome everybody to the Retention Science e-commerce metrics webinar with Justin Winter from Diamond Candles and Ryan Lee from Retention Science. So quickly, I'm going to go over the agenda. Basically going to do some introductions and then look at ways to segment your data. Then look at what metrics e-commerce companies need to track, starting with order metrics, marketing metrics, and then some customer and advanced metrics. And then we're going to do little Diamond Candles case study, and Justin's going to talk about what reports and what metrics he really relied on while scaling his business and how it filtered into the marketing decision-making process. So to start it off with Diamond Candles and Justin.
Hey everyone, yeah, thank you for the introduction. So Diamond Candles is an online-only home fragrance company. We have this unique product called a ring candle, which we developed and came up with about 4 years ago. And we've seen a lot of growth through social channels, continuing to look at new paid acquisition channels, and given, particularly for us because we have a consumable, looking at retention is obviously super important as part of that, because one of the great things about candles is that they run out and you need another one. So we're based in Durham, North Carolina, and yeah, so we're excited to continue to take on the home fragrance world. So that's us.
Great, thanks, Justin. And you've experienced a lot of growth over the last 3 years. So we're gonna just try to get into how metrics have played a role and how all of this reporting has played a role into that growth. And from our end, we have Ryan Lee, who's our Client Success Manager. Take it over, Ryan.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. So a quick background on Retention Science. We're a big data marketing platform that uses machine learning algorithms to predict customer behavior. Our mission is to give marketing teams access to advanced data to pretty much target, engage, and retain customers. As the Client Success Manager at Retention Science, my responsibilities are typically managing overall campaign strategy and client requirements to increase growth, helping to review data integrity, do weekly reviews with the teams, marketing teams such as Justin's team, and really making recommendations on campaign attribution and performance metrics.
Great, Ryan. And then we'll dive right into segmenting data.
So to start off, today we're going to talk about ways to segment your data. And pretty much the first topic here is regards to traffic source and channel. As many of you may already be doing, it's really important to segment and track your data from the different sources and channel. This includes direct, referral, organic, PPC, even email or affiliate. So when you first really look at segmenting your data, it's all about figuring out what sources are bringing in the best types of customer. You can look at metric data such as bounce rates of each of these sources. You can look at where these visitors are coming from and really understanding where you should put your dollar amount when acquiring these customers. The next step that we would look at is product and category affinity. You want to look at what people are browsing. Do they come to your website because of specific products or categories that have a higher affinity? You can look at how traffic sources react to different product and category affinities as well. To dive into a more granular level, we also can analyze what product attributes are causing customers to come through. Following that, we can look at time-based cohorts. For ways to segment your data, using cohorts is very important. A lot of times, finding that commonality between different groups of customers can give you a lot better results. So in the case of time-based, we can look at what hours or time of the day that these customers are coming in. Do specific weekdays or weekends give you better conversions, opens, or click rates? Depending on your business, you're going to want to send specific messaging and content based off of what day it is or what time. Good example is using holiday periods. During the holiday season, you're going to have your time to ship restrictions on customer service and those hours there. So being able to send emails or other content at the right time will make a big difference. Following that, we'll talk about device. Do your customers shop online with your web browser? Are they buying on your mobile browser? If you have an application for iOS or Android, which of those customers have a better affinity? Do they look at your products more, or do they like to browse your content, learn more about your business in that sense? And finally, following ways to segment your data is your customer type. Every business has a very different customer type. You can look at discount versus non-discount customers. You can look at subscription, monthly subscription versus non-subscription. And in the case of businesses today, a lot of them have hybrid customers where they're monthly subscribers, but they also make one-off purchases. Looking at these customer types, we have to be able to segment them in very different ways and serve them the content that best serves what they are. So following this, I'm going to ask Justin for Diamond Candles if he can kind of give us a better idea of ways they segment their data at Diamond Candles.
Yeah, definitely. So, for us, when we kind of look at the evolution of our programs, and as we're growing quickly and there's increasingly opportunities, we have opportunity costs on diving deeper, and there's really a payoff for that. We started, if we look at kind of what we first started doing with our programs, just working to maybe for customer acquisition purposes, working to a simple kind of CPA across all of our paid channels. But kind of that second evolution has been going through and looking at average order values on maybe a state-by-state basis would be a good example. So pulling in kind of the geography piece of that. So looking at maybe average order value in Alabama is $30, but in New York it's $70. And what we'll do is kind of at a high level look of all the different ways we can slice and dice the data, and look at where we see some of the kind of the largest span in the data and the largest difference. And we'll kind of look at the opportunity on both from an acquisition perspective, but obviously for retention when it comes to what we're doing in email most often, so that we're personalizing the content. Or one of the big things for us is just in particular because of our category, we use discounting and promotion a fair amount as a retention strategy. And part of that we're pulling in and looking at and making sure that we're only giving as much of a coupon code that we need to in order to give a particular individual enough incentive to convert. So by taking into consideration customer type with prior purchasing history around discounts, it's just a high lifetime value cohort customer. What types of products have they purchased? We'll pull in product level recommendations so that if someone loves kind of the fresh category of candles and fragrances, then we want to feature those products. When we look at kind of send time optimization to maximize open rates would be a practical tactic of that, of looking at when's the best time to send this email to someone based upon their hour by hour kind of open history based upon all the customer data that we have. So that's getting into some of the tactical of this, but at a high level, being able to just have all this information in the first place and have it stored in one area was the initial challenge for us, and then being able to easily access that data, and then ways where we can proactively have that data be utilized without having to be as manually intensive. But we're at varying levels on all these different things here on the slide, using them to continue to further optimize retention and acquisition programs based on having all this data in the same place, so we can tease out how we can drive a little more volume, make the cohort a little bit more profitable and continue to move the needle.
Great, great. And Justin, like you mentioned, a lot of times when your marketing team is running campaigns and using segmentation for retention, it really applies to your acquisition channel as well. So it's a full marketing solution there.
Yeah, definitely.
Moving to the next slide, we're going to start looking at more of a metric basis, key metrics to track. So we're going to start off with order metrics, then we'll talk about some of the marketing metrics, and following that, some of the advanced data relationships. To start off, some of the metrics that you will have to track on an order level typically are looking at average order value. The average order value, AOV, is really going to be great as a revenue driver. Being able to measure your campaigns, your different channels based off of AOV, really help you understand whether discounting is working. Is it worth giving discounts if you see an increase in number of items purchased per order and whatnot? In this case, we have a simple calculation on screen for what AOV is pretty much calculated by total sales divided by orders. And then we have average business margin. Do you know how much money you're actually making? A lot of times that I've worked with clients or merchants in the past, it's been very difficult because product cost is not always inside of your data set. So being able to access one platform and be able to see sale prices but your actual product costs can help you understand what your business margin is. So when you're sending out campaigns, you can understand I can give this much of a % off for my longer LTV customers versus the shorter ones. And then finally, another metric under orders is your average order profit. How much dollar amount you actually make after you minus the discounts. And being able to use this to understand if these campaigns ultimately are effective. I wanted to get some more feedback from Justin on some of the order metrics that you guys currently track, and how do you utilize them when you're looking at building different types of campaigns?
Yeah, so definitely average order value is a good place to start, right? So that's something for us where when we're looking at our, at a high level, our allowable cost to acquire a customer in a particular channel, we'll back that in from our average order value in doing calculations around COGS, our profit before the profit after cost of goods, and backing it into our allowable cost to acquire a customer. So we'll definitely start to use that, and at a high level, as I mentioned briefly before, look at variances in order value at a high level to adjust that allowable cost to acquire a customer. And then kind of as you can go deeper there, and where this hasn't been as much of a focus for us yet, just because we have a little bit more of a simplistic product catalog with similar margins. But particularly for us, as we think about product expansion, where we'll have definitely a wider product line with different price points and different margins. If instead of looking at more of a simple average order value, we'll be able to be a lot more specific, accurate, and optimized if we're pulling in profit on the individual units. So if someone's purchasing SKU X at an 80% profit margin and then SKU Y at a 30%, well, there might be predilections towards buying certain SKUs in different geographies or for different type of people and things like that. So definitely wanting to take that into consideration with things. So for us, with our e-commerce platform and kind of our merchandising tools, we have the ability to have in kind of profit margin in there. So that's something, as we continue to dive deeper, we're looking more and more at, well, what was really my net profit on this order as opposed to an average order value, and particularly as we're using different types of discounting mechanisms from a retention perspective, we want to optimize for that net margin, not just an average order value, because the margin will be lesser obviously if we're using some type, different ranges of discounting levels to drive incremental profit and revenue as well. So, and certainly with average order profit, that kind of factors into there as another way to look at that calculation. So for us, it's an ongoing a view that we continually revisit, probably at least quarterly. Once we kind of optimize to that next more granular level, connecting with our internal accounting and finance resources and looking at our cost structures and things like that, and then backing that into the front end for the marketing team to take that and become even more granular with how we're measuring some of these different things, so that that can help us be able to spend an extra 10% more on allowable cost to acquire a customer for this particular cohort and this particular channel, or from a retention perspective, we can be a little bit more maybe aggressive because we're targeting a 10% net return on that reorder, and then we can use that at that point to really hone in on more specific strategies as there's scale across these different channels, and we're diving in deeper to how we can optimize to that next further degree to increase volume and the conversion rate on the offers or whatever it is, because we can afford to spend more, or we can have a more aggressive offers that's moving the needle for more people to make that repeat purchase.
Great, yeah, and as Justin mentioned, there's these order metrics can really help you in different areas of your business. It's not just simply a marketing knowledge. You pass it over to your finance team, other analysts, and be able to understand how much inventory we may or may not need and whatnot. So the next slide that we're moving on to is marketing metrics. Start off CPA, cost per acquisition, understanding how much each customer costs. Looking back at the previous slides earlier, we talked about ways to segment by acquisition source and whatnot. Here, looking at CPA, understanding what CPA you're actually having for each source is a big difference into where you should put your money. Where should you spend your marketing and sales dollars? Following that is conversion rate. How efficient is your website? Just to mention, there's many different types of conversion rates, even in the e-commerce space. You can look at the final order conversion, but you can also look at conversion rates pertaining to different goals that you have. What is your sign-up rate? But in this case, a simple calculation for conversion rate would be orders divided by the visitors of your website. And then following that, we have repeat customer rate, guided more towards retention and looking at how often your customers are coming back. You can tie this into other marketing metrics down the road that says they're expected to have X amount of dollars as well over a period of time. And then finally, revenue per visit. At the end of the day, you want to make the most out of every customer. So how much dollar amount is coming out from each of these visitors? So looking at diamond candles, Justin, can you tell us what metrics for marketing are most important to you and the team? What are you guys looking on a daily basis, quarterly, and even on a annual?
Yeah, so it'll be different for different parts of the company. So for our guys that are handling the front end, quote unquote, acquisition activities for new customers, certainly cost per acquisition for us, and sometimes kind of a return on ad spend number is another way that we sometimes look at it to kind of gauge the performance of our spend. But cost to acquire the customer is something that we look at probably daily on an individual basis as we're testing new paid channels and measuring the performance of those channels and optimizing those channels, whether that's Facebook ads, AdWords, or that's Pandora radio ads. It's a pretty universal kind of bottom line metric to figure out if something's working or not. And from there, conversion rate something also as well, although that will fall a little bit into, we'll have some other people involved there, but we're continually looking at how can we be doing so split testing different parts of the website and selling people better, reducing friction, increasing trust, communicating value better, so that we see on a regular basis 4, 5, 6% increase in on-site conversion rate on a maybe even a monthly basis, because we're always testing the homepage, the category pages, the product pages, the checkout flows, both on desktop as well as mobile, treating them almost as separate entities. So conversion rate is definitely huge, and that really is the foundation for the new customer acquisition activities as well as those retention activities, because it's all coming back to the site, and the site needs to always be improving on how well it sells people. So repeat customer rate is something that we will less frequently be looking at. That won't be on a daily basis, but definitely on a monthly basis. And we're trying to see how can we take people who've only purchased one time and move them into the 2 times purchasers cohort. So looking at that, as well as obviously as the calculation is described here, looking at that high level number is a good summary number on moving the needle further on us doing a better job on merchandising for repeat purchases, as well as just staying in contact and communication with our customers. So, and then revenue per visit as well, another kind of angle that we occasionally look at for kind of looking at conversion rate plus cost per acquisition for a given new channel. We could have a sponsored advertising test with Pinterest, but the traffic converts at 0.5%, but we could have something else that's converting at 10x that at 5%. So, being able to look at how much money we're spending, the effective cost to acquire a customer, and also the revenue per visitor, is another good way to cross-section that data and compare different activities and benchmark ourselves in terms of how we can continue to optimize the value of those visitors and drive more conversions.
Great. So the next slide that we're moving on to is more on the customer and advanced metrics, talking about customer lifetime value. How much is your customer worth over their lifetime? In the calculation here, looking at average order value times their order frequency multiplied by the predicted lifetime. This is a good way to get a snapshot of over time when a customer is acquired, what is that expected dollar value? And looking at customer lifetime value as an advanced metric is when you start really looking at it by different acquisition sources. Later down the line, you could really split it into additional cohorts based off of the type of products or categories they're buying. And earlier we mentioned customer type for subscription versus non-subscription, and even hybrid customers, being able to understand whether your customer lifetime value is best on those different types of customer types. Following that is likelihood to purchase. What is the probability that an individual customer will make a purchase? So in the case of retention science, we're really looking at a predictive model based off of the 50 attributes that we're collecting of the user's behavior on site, on email, and different channels such as mobile and whatnot. But what is their likelihood to purchase at this moment when I serve this communication or message? It's very important and gives you an opportunity to target customers when they're most highly engaged. The next metric is propensity to churn. Being able to understand when customers are in danger of churning. And with retention science, we look at it from a predictive method based off of, again, their engagement, their behavior. Do they have attributes to match other consumers in the past that have showed signs of churn? And being able to calculate the expected churn time to understand how much time do I have to keep this customer as a repeating customer. And then finally, customer satisfaction rate. Keeping your customers happy. What is the feedback that they're giving you? For the users that are leaving, being able to track and understand their cancellation reasons. Do they have issues with customer care? Were your content and messaging from the marketing team not unique enough and personalized for their needs? So being able to understand the customer satisfaction rate is very important, and some of the external net promoter scores and NPS will really help you understand that. So for Diamond Candles, I wanted to hear from Justin. What are some of the things that you guys are doing right now that are more in the advanced metrics that help your marketing team continue to target your customers as needed?
Yeah, so customer lifetime value is definitely one of the biggest numbers we look at pretty regularly. At a high level, understanding that the value of a customer from when we cross-section geographic data, when we look at kind of merchandising preferences, or certainly acquisition sources, the difference in lifetime value the range can be extremely large. More so, I know, than we originally would have maybe guessed before we started looking at some of this. So for us, in continuing to look at an example of an acquisition source that, hey, this campaign with non-branded search on Google AdWords, people searching for candles, the lifetime value is X. But then if we look at maybe, and actually this is something we did maybe 2 years ago, but we ran a test with one of the large daily deal sites and went national with them, a lot of volume, certainly at a very large discount. And the thought process going into that was, hey, well, our basically your cost of goods becomes your allowable cost to acquire a customer. You're in some instances losing money on something like that, but hey, these are going to be people we're introducing to the brand, and of course these people are going to buy again. We know our lifetime value numbers, so let's see what that looks like long term. This could be a great scale opportunity thing to try to see if we can fit this into our programs regularly. So come to find out, when we looked at customer lifetime value, as a lot of people figured out, the customer lifetime value was nearly a third of our normal customer segments. So the repurchase rates were the lowest indexing across any acquisition source we've ever had, because the audience is self-selecting as people who are looking for a deal. So the long-term value of those customers was really negligible. So the upfront losses that we had on cost of goods and even just our time running everything, you really didn't pan out. And we decided, at least in that form, that type of promotion at those price points that we'd agreed upon, was something that would not be sustainable for us. So looking at front-end activities and certainly on the back end for retention of existing customers, at the end of the day, we want to always be looking at how can we be increasing our customer lifetime value. The simplest approach that we use at a high level is, this entire business thing we do. It's is my cost to acquire a customer less than the value of that customer over a given period of time, and that all these other metrics and numbers really are kind of build up to that equation in many ways. So if we can continue to increase lifetime value by, through merchandising, having more products, doing better at retention with messaging, with segmenting our users, with being more personalized with our messaging, with our offers, all of these things, pulled together can help us go from a lifetime value of X to 1.1x to 1.2x to moving the needle an extra 10, 20%, every couple quarters. And as we expand merchandising, in particular in product lines, seeing large bumps with that, but that's definitely a huge piece for us. So when we get into likelihood to purchase and propensity to churn kind of together, that will be one of the things that we'll use with retention science in our retention campaigns, primarily when we look at making sure that customers are not churning. If we know that our average customer makes a purchase every 3 months, well, based upon this customer's activities, how often they're visiting the website, how often they're opening emails, modeled against people with that similar kind of customer cycle. Are these indicating actions that would lead us to believe that this person is going to be likely to be purchasing again without us having to be very intentional about having them, about giving them some type of offer or with the messaging that we're using. So that's definitely very, very important, and a piece of that is the propensity to churn element. So how can we continue to get people on that regular cadence that makes sense for the products that we have and just the inherent product usage cycles with a large shark handle. So on our customer satisfaction rate, that's definitely something we've used here and there. It's something we've been meaning to integrate more regularly into our programs, but using that Net Promoter Score is a great way to get a feel for customer happiness over time. And from there, the people that have more negative Net Promoter Scores, working with our brand team and our customer satisfaction team to follow up and both qualitatively and quantitatively figure out the issues that people are having and kind of have a continuous improvement cycle. So those things just back into that customer lifetime value and making people happier over time.
Great. And to add on to the advanced metrics, some of the things that I've really seen in this industry for e-commerce is being able to look at these orders and marketing metrics individually, being able to calculate them. But when it gets down to these models such as customer lifetime value, likelihood to purchase, or propensity to churn, it does start to get very advanced. We're looking at many different types of dimensions, and creating these predictive data science models are very tough on the marketer. So it's really about finding the right partners who can help you with these models, and over time, with your own business domain knowledge, you can apply it to these models as well to get better understanding of your customer, their churn, when they're most likely to purchase, what other products do they look like they're going to buy soon.
So that was some really good educational information from Justin and from Ryan. And now we're going to move into a little bit of a case study portion. And what we're going to ask Justin is, how can you really tell what channels and what campaigns are driving the most bottom line revenue? And how does all this segmentation and reporting and et cetera factor into your marketing decision-making process? How do you create that feedback loop that constantly keeps improving those business processes that has allowed you to grow, so quickly over the last 2 or 3 years?
Yeah. So for us, one of our challenges has been we're a relatively small team compared to a lot of other people who have similar growth rates at a similar scale. So we've had the ongoing challenge of how can we really utilize best-in-class systems and technology to scale our efforts in time. So as best as we can, we're not manually creating different customer segments and scheduling 30 different segmented email campaigns for kind of some of our top cohorts, but how can we do that in a little bit more of an automated way to where we can still have the degree of segmentation, but something where we're not having to, after every, say, email campaign we send, spend 2 hours in analysis before we prepare the next campaign, and then spend another couple hours preparing 20 different variations of campaigns based on that. So retention science has definitely been a help for us on that, and has helped us drive a lot of incremental revenue. We have one email marketing manager in-house, basically, and my marketing team across design and brand and everything it's less than 10 people, so relatively small team for a company of our size. So looking at, so maybe on retention there first, we want to continue to figure out how we can maximize the value of that customer over, we call it a 12-month period for us when we look at it. So looking at the different campaign types with our promotional calendar. So we're ending of Valentine's Day right now. We'll have kind of more minor gifting holidays of St. Patrick's Day and Easter here soon, and then Mother's Day, which will be pretty big for us. So we're all throughout the merchandising and seasonal promotional calendar. We're building a cadence of communication to not maximize the number of emails we're sending to people, but how can we maximize the timing of those emails based upon individual kind of customer lifecycle trends on a one-to-one basis, not at a high level kind of, I'm going to average it out, hey, I have 1 million email addresses, but 200,000 people, they tend to have this attribute, so we'll send the same email to these 200,000 people. Right? You're just losing opportunity if it's not one-to-one. So from there, say on the lead up to a holiday, we want to, the goal is to get someone to buy for, one of our Easter-focused products and purchase for a gift. So we want to maximize that and give people more gifting occasions, and we want to be the go-to gift option, or for something for someone's personal use certainly as well for them to use. So looking at that and then optimizing the different offer levels that we're using and to use discounts is definitely part of that for us in our business. So being able to say, hey, here's a 10, 20, 30, and 40% off coupon code. Let's only use the deepest discount that we have to use in order to get this particular person to convert based upon all the information that we have about this individual. And we want this set of people, if they haven't purchased yet for the Easter holiday season, then we want that to happen. And if the only way we make that happen is by giving a deeper, a richer coupon code, so to speak, for us in our model, we're okay with that because we know that lesser margin more frequently for us. And again, continuing to examine this and look at this, but we want to optimize for that net over the long term. So looking at everything on a campaign by campaign basis, a seasonal basis for us, and then figuring out how discounting and promotion plays a part in that, and with retention science helping automate that personalization, just because the ginormous data set, there's no way with one e-com marketing employee we could segment to that degree. It would be operationally impossible. So being able to dive in further there, we've seen a lot of results in having email being continued growth as a revenue channel for us relative to our whole. And in the past 12 months, gone from maybe 5 to 10% of revenue coming from email to where we're easily double that right now. And of our cohorts that basically only purchased if it's a richer coupon code, well, we want to maximize the value there, but still protect our more profitable purchasing cycle customers that will buy just because it's season without a coupon code. So on retention, that's kind of what we have going on there. And then on the front end, certainly for customer acquisition, as we've talked back and forth about here a little briefly already, but looking at the value of those customers and using that to inform our acquisition execution partners, both internal and external, with some of the agencies we partner with to manage our Facebook ads, as an example, or some of our SEM activities. So allowing them to have access to that data. So on a bidding level for different states or different times of day, we're able to push the needle even further to see performance increases and optimize increasingly towards looking at the allowable cost to acquire a customer in light of the net profit, both initially as well as that predictive value of the customer over a longer period of time, so that we can drive more volume while making sure that we're protected and not being overly aggressive and putting ourselves into an unsustainable cycle with overpaying for customers that really don't have that value for us. So that's how we're thinking about those two different areas, and continuing to think. And we still have a long ways to go as well. There's always a new opportunity, but we're working this direction and pulling in a lot of these elements to continuously see performance increases, scale increases, and profitability increases across retention and acquisition programs to maximize the value of our customers, and continue to create enterprise value for Diamond Candles and grow as quickly as we can.
Great, Justin. Thanks for a lot of really good insider information on how all of these metrics play into kind of help you out in scaling your business. So now we'll move on to the sort of question portion of it. We're wrapping up kind of the presentation portion, and we already got a few really good questions. One from Thomas that he wants to know, where do these reports live? I mean, do you guys just pull all of these data sources together in one Excel file, or do you kind of go in all of these different vendors you use, and how do you make these reports actionable from kind of one place?
Yeah, fair question. So that's definitely a continual process for us as we're learning and kind of testing different approaches to that. So I can't say we've locked in 100% on some super awesome, BI intelligence dashboard kind of magicness quite yet, where everything is all in one area. But I'd say we use a compilation of several different things. Our retention science dashboard, particularly as it relates to customer lifetime value numbers and values of customers geographically in different areas, and some of the attributes that tie into some of those retention-based customer cohort values. That's something where we can easily run a lot of those reports from retention science and then just provide those to our third-party partners. And we typically would be very iterative on things. So as an example, right now with our out-of-house agency that manages our AdWords spend, just based upon the priorities for programs and optimization, continuing to push that to the next level. One of the things when we're actually in the middle of wrapping this up now, but kind of upgrading from more of a simple CPA, as we talked about, to kind of a state-by-state CPA level, and just given the amount of time needed to optimize to that metric and kind of settle in on the opportunity there, that's a 30 to 45 day kind of thing. So once we kind of have that new, deeper level of optimization, well then, our process, and we're making this a regular kind of process, particularly in this channel, say, okay, we've optimized to this degree now based upon this data. What's the next data set that we can provide them with that they can even optimize further towards? So for us, given we're a bootstrap company, we don't have VC money, for us, our customer acquisition kind of financing position isn't one that we can wait for a 6-month repayment period. Although some people, they might be able to do that, right? So we have some limitations on maximizing lifetime value just based upon our internal numbers and just cash flow situation based upon other growth initiatives. But I would say we'll pull together some of our centralized dashboards and just provide access to those. So retention science, partners like this, obviously they're going to have full access to controlled degrees of Google Analytics to be able to pull in different information there as well. And then we'll just continue from my end, particularly with some of these partners where it's managed out of house, to just kind of drive the project management cycle of, okay, let's optimize to this next degree. What's the best way for us to get you all of this data so you can push to that next level? And okay, let's get there first. All right, now we're there. Where are we going next? Okay, let's look at identifying what that next data set we want to pull into optimize towards is, and then let's provide that information. Okay, that should be done in 30 days. now let's go to the next level, and just continuing to do there until we see the level where there's, based upon the scale on that channel, there's a degree of diminishing returns. You know, conceivably, you could optimize, you know, programs on targeting for AdWords to I'm targeting, you know, 20 to 25-year-old male Android users on Saturdays from 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. Right? Maybe there's a spike in conversion rate there, so we could conceivably increase what we're doing there. But you know, if that segment is very small, then it might not be worth it. So so continually the iterative process for us.
Great. Next question comes from James, and that is kind of looking back at the advanced metrics slide and the customer lifetime value model we presented there. He wants to know, you know, why we chose that model versus more complex models. And I think I can sort of start the answer off by saying that we just wanted to put something up that's fairly simple to understand, but the actual model is much more complex. Us at Retention Science, we take in, you know, depending on the company, 50 to 100 different properties per customer to determine what the customer lifetime value is, and also taking it to the next step and factoring in predicted customer lifetime value takes a lot more data processing as well, where you couldn't really, you know, put it into one equation and Excel file. Ryan can provide a little bit more light on that, since he works with a number of our customers to develop these custom models for each of them.
Yeah, absolutely. Like you mentioned, Marco, it's really a standard equation or definition that we put on the slide. Working with so many different types of merchants of different sizes, customer lifetime value can be measured in many different ways. For each of our clients and other merchants out there, there will be a set of domain knowledge that is very particular to your business. So in our case, we typically look at the standard set, which includes all of the user behavior, their engagement, some of the other data points such as RFM for the recency, the frequency, and the monetary value of the customers. So bringing all that together will help us develop different and various CLV models. So in the case of, you know, that equation, it's very standard, but CLV definitely gets a lot more complex with all the domain knowledge of your business and different parameters and whatnot.
Great, and we're pushing to the hour limit right now, so this is going to be our last question, and it's really about repeat purchase rate and how that figures in when choosing what channels to go after. I'm guessing that I think it's Divi has a problem with kind of seeing how to segment sort of customer channels, marketing channels, based on the ones that give you the most repeat purchasers. And is that something you look at, Justin?
Yeah, so I would say it's not something we regularly look at in terms of that angle or that metric specifically to define and tease out repeat purchase rates from different acquisition channels and marketing activities. We would tie that more into, at least just for us, and some of this is just preferential, but and just based on where we are in terms of maturity with our programs and in-house expertise, we'll have to continue to dive in deeper here. But you know, we're going to be looking at more of the simpler lifetime customer value number, and you got to understand for us, and if you know, if everyone hasn't already pulled up diamondcandles.com and taken a peek, we basically have one product line, the ring candle, and it's all $24.95. Unless it's on clearance, it's $19.95. So you know, the profit margin on all of our products, basically, it's identical. So for us, it's fairly simplistic and just easy for us to look at lifetime value, and just because you know, that number, you know, we could basically see how many products they purchased and how many times that they did. So if someone has a wider range of product prices, well, someone could have bought 10 $1 items, or they could have bought one $100 item. So looking at the top level revenue number and being able to intuitively understand and kind of get a feel for relevancy for repeat purchase rates, that would be ineffective in that situation. So for us, we haven't as much used that, although that's I'm sure something we could do, and retention science could probably help us on the data crunching on that if we wanted to, but we just haven't used that as a metric to kind of keep on top of mind as actively and use as kind of one of our core retention metrics that we look at on maybe a monthly basis. It's something that we know at a high level what that is, but the customer lifetime value would be the primary number we would use to accomplish that goal of teasing out how to continually increase that over time.
Mm-hmm. So basically, you've identified that the customer lifetime value really, brings in all these factors like repeat purchase rate, and just focusing on one metric versus dividing your time focusing on 3 or 4 metrics is the way to go. That kind of wraps up.
Yeah, I would say it.
Go ahead.
Or sorry, we were just going to end it with, and that's something for us in particular. There's an 80-20 of let's optimize to this primary metric first, right, and get everything aligned with optimizing to that first number, and then from there diving deeper into maybe 3 or 4 different kind of sub KPIs that build up to that is something incrementally we can do that obviously increases in time, and we can dive into deeper for insights. But at a high level, depending on where your programs are, that's something for us, what's that primary metric on retention? And let's use that to guide acquisition and the marketing retention activity specifically, and then getting everything up to speed there, then moving to that next deeper level is kind of how we think about it and the process. So, hey, here's 50 numbers to optimize towards, it would just be quite unwieldy all at once.
Great. Well, thank you, Justin, for your time and all the insights you've provided, and also thank you, Ryan, as well. And then thanks for everybody for attending. It's been great. Sorry we started a little late, but we got a lot of great content here. We'll be following up with an email with the link to the slides and the webinar recording, so you can kind of